Picture this. You're standing face to face with an army of 8,000 clay warriors, each one unique, each one staring back at you with lifeless eyes. For decades, we thought we knew their story. We were wrong. Dead wrong. What if I told you these silent sentinels have been screaming for over 2,000 years and we just couldn't hear them? That's exactly what happened when cutting-edge quantum AI finally gave voice to China's legendary Terracotta Army. The results didn't just rewrite history, they revealed a horror story that makes your worst nightmare look like a bedtime tale. For nearly half a century, thousands of mysterious symbols etched into these ancient warriors remained an unsolved puzzle. Archaeologists dismissed them as simple craftsman signatures or inventory codes, basically ancient assembly instructions. They couldn't have been more wrong. Enter Project Tanji, Heavenly Secret, a classified Chinese initiative that deployed state-of-the-art quantum AI to crack this 2,000-year-old code. This wasn't your average computer. We're talking about a quantum system capable of processing trillions of possibilities faster than you can blink. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Janice Chen, a quantum linguist working on the project, had been studying the patterns for months when she noticed something that sent chills down her spine. The symbols weren't random. They followed emotional patterns. Places where the inscriptions were deepest, most urgent, corresponded to areas of the body where pain would be most intense. The AI devoured high-resolution, multispectral scans of every single warrior, creating a massive digital library of symbols that human eyes had missed, dismissed, or couldn't even see. Advanced imaging revealed layers of text. Some symbols were carved deep, others barely scratched into the surface, as if written in desperate haste. The quantum system's ability to cross-reference thousands of variables simultaneously meant it could detect patterns that would take human researchers centuries to uncover. It analyzed stroke pressure, symbol placement, even the microscopic tool marks left by whoever carved these messages. What it discovered will haunt you. The AI started connecting dots across the entire army, linking a symbol on a general's helmet, in one pit to markings on an archer's leg 300 feet away in another. These weren't random scratches. They were sentences, messages, testimonies from beyond the grave. But here's where it gets truly spine-chilling. The quantum AI didn't just translate the symbols, it mapped their emotional intensity. The deeper the carving, the more desperate the message. Some inscriptions were barely visible, as if the writer was terrified of being caught. Others were gouged so deep they nearly cracked the clay. The first translation hit like a thunderbolt. Repeated on inner armor plates where no living soul was meant to look, the AI found a chilling phrase: "We were built by suffering." This wasn't a proud craftsman's signature. This was a scream from the past, trapped in clay for 2 millennia. Then came the truly disturbing discoveries. Hidden beneath layers of paint and clay, the AI found what appeared to be names. Not Chinese names, but foreign ones. Names that suggested the workers weren't just Chinese peasants, but prisoners of war from conquered territories. Men, women, and even children forced into this nightmare project. One inscription, found inside the chest cavity of a cavalry officer, simply read, "My daughter will never know my face." Another, carved into the base of an archer's foot, where it would never be seen, contained a message so personal it's heartbreaking. "Tell my wife in the village of Zhao that I died thinking of her." But the AI wasn't done uncovering personal tragedies. It found evidence of a systematic effort to document suffering. Multiple statues contained what appeared to be death counts, tally marks indicating how many workers had died during specific phases of construction. Then came another message, hidden inside the hollow torso of a high-ranking officer. "He took our names and burned them into this earth." Think about that. This wasn't celebrating a glorious imperial project. This was a final testament from people who knew they were being erased, replaced by these clay doubles. The quantum AI also revealed something that changed everything we thought we knew about the construction process. The inscriptions weren't all carved at the same time. Some were added months or even years after the initial construction, suggesting workers were brought back to the site, possibly to be executed, and managed to leave final messages before their deaths. On the kneeling archers positioned at the army's front lines, the quantum AI decoded an inscription that will make your blood run cold. May our souls never know peace, but stand guard for eternity. This wasn't just despair. This was a ritualistic curse, a binding spell. But the AI found evidence that this wasn't just metaphorical. Multiple warriors contained similar phrases, suggesting an organized spiritual ritual was taking place during construction. The quantum system identified patterns in symbol placement that corresponded to ancient Chinese spiritual practices. Certain inscriptions were positioned at specific energy points on the body, following traditional acupuncture meridians. This wasn't random. Someone with deep knowledge of spiritual binding was orchestrating this. Even more disturbing, the AI found evidence of what appeared to be blood mixed into the clay of certain statues. Microscopic analysis revealed organic compounds that could only come from human remains. The workers weren't just leaving messages. Parts of them were literally being incorporated into the statues. Suddenly, these incredibly lifelike statues took on a sinister new meaning. What if they weren't just artistic representations? What if they were designed as vessels, eternal prisons for the souls of the very people forced to build them? The AI uncovered inscriptions that read like desperate prayers. Let my spirit find the river of the dead, and may the gods release me from this clay prison. These weren't just metaphors. The workers believed their souls were actually being trapped. One of the most chilling discoveries came from deep within the command structure of the army. High-ranking terracotta generals contained inscriptions that weren't from workers, they were from the supervisors and foremen who oversaw construction. Even they weren't spared. Messages like, "I enforced his will, and now I share their fate," suggested that even those in charge knew they would ultimately be sacrificed. The implications are staggering. This wasn't an army meant to protect an emperor in the afterlife. This was a collection of trapped souls, bound to service for eternity. Every unique face on every warrior might represent a real person whose spirit was imprisoned in clay. The wonder of the ancient world had become a 2,000-year-old crime scene. It's almost poetic when you think about it. The world's greatest archaeological discovery started with farmers digging for water. In 1974, in China's Shanxi province, a couple of local farmers hit something hard with their shovels. It wasn't a rock, it was the head of a life-sized clay soldier. They'd stumbled upon the edge of a massive underground army. Over 8,000 soldiers, 130 chariots, and nearly 700 horses, all created to guard the tomb of China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang. The discovery sent shockwaves through the archaeological world. Nothing like this had ever been found before. An entire army, perfectly preserved, with each soldier having unique facial features, armor, and weapons. It was immediately hailed as the eighth wonder of the world. But from day one, there were puzzles that didn't make sense. Almost immediately, archaeologists noticed the tiny markings carved into the clay, intricate characters hidden under arms, on shoe soles, behind armor plates. The official explanation was boring, but logical. Quality control stamps. Ancient bureaucracy at work. If something was defective, they'd know who to blame. For decades, that explanation satisfied everyone, but there were always problems with this theory. First, the sheer volume was overwhelming. Some statues had over 50 different inscriptions, while identical soldiers standing right beside them had none. If these were quality control marks, why was there no consistency? Second, the locations made no sense. Why carve a foreman's name on the inside of a hollow chest where it would never be seen? Why scratch symbols on the soles of feet that would be buried underground forever? Third, and most puzzling, huge numbers of symbols didn't match standard Qin dynasty script. They were distorted, unique, almost alien. Some appeared to be written in dialects from conquered territories hundreds of miles away. It was like trying to read a book where half the letters are upside down and written in languages that don't exist. Researchers photographed them, catalogued them in dusty archives, then mostly forgot about them. The physical challenges made investigation nearly impossible. These statues are incredibly fragile. Some are over 2,000 years old and held together by little more than hope and careful climate control. You can't just flip them over or crack them open to read what's inside. Even more frustrating, the most intriguing inscriptions seem to be in the most inaccessible places. Rumors persisted among the excavation teams that the most important messages were hidden deep within the hollow figures, places that would require destroying the statues to reach. Dr. Liu Wei, one of the original excavation leaders, admitted in a 2019 interview that they knew they were missing something crucial. We could feel there was more to the story. Sometimes when we worked late at night in the pits, it felt like the statues were trying to tell us something, but we just didn't have the tools to listen. So for 50 years, the world stared at an army of silent storytellers, never knowing they were screaming. The inscriptions became archaeology's greatest unsolved mystery. Thousands of messages from the distant past that might as well have been written in invisible ink. To understand these shocking decoded messages, you need to know the man they were made for, Qin Shi Huang. He wasn't just an emperor, he was a force of pure ambition and cruelty. On paper, his achievements are incredible. He unified China for the first time in 221 BC, ending centuries of bloody warfare. He standardized writing, currency, and measurements. He began construction of the Great Wall. He sounds like one of history's greatest leaders. But dig deeper, and you'll find a monster. Qin Shi Huang was a brutal tyrant obsessed with power, control, and cheating death itself. His empire was built on the broken backs of massive forced labor populations. The ancient historian Sima Qian estimated that over 700,000 people were forced to work on just the emperor's tomb complex alone. 100,000 people. That's more than the entire population of Boston today. These weren't skilled volunteers. They were convicts, prisoners of war, and peasants rounded up and forced into service. Sima Qian wrote that they worked under constant threat of beatings or execution for the smallest mistakes. They were completely disposable. Suddenly, the AI's decoded messages sound chillingly real. Phrases like, constructed by suffering, and I worked until my hands broke, aren't poetic expressions. They're literal testimonies from people who carved them. The emperor's obsession with his own afterlife was legendary. He wanted to rule the next world, just as brutally as he ruled this one. But his cruelty didn't stop with the living. Here's where the story takes a turn into pure nightmare territory. Sima Qian made a terrifying claim that has haunted historians for centuries. To keep the tomb's secrets safe, all the workers and artisans who built the inner chambers were trapped and buried alive with the emperor when construction was complete. Think about that. After years of forced labor, after watching their friends and families die from exhaustion and brutality, after carving desperate messages into clay, hoping someone would remember their suffering, they were murdered to protect their tormentors' secrets. But it gets worse. The AI's discoveries suggest this wasn't just mass murder, it was spiritual warfare. Now reconsider those inscriptions that sound like dark incantations. May our souls never know peace, but stand guard for eternity. This might not have been just a threat or a curse. It could have been an actual ritual performed to bind the spirits of murdered workers to the clay soldiers, forcing them into eternal servitude, even after death. Ancient Chinese spiritual practices included rituals for binding souls to objects. The emperor, terrified of death and obsessed with control, may have employed court magicians and spiritual advisors to ensure his enslaved workforce would continue serving him in the afterlife. The positioning of certain inscriptions at specific energy points on the bodies, the evidence of organic materials mixed into the clay, the systematic nature of the spiritual language, all of this points to organized supernatural enslavement. The emperor wasn't just taking their lives, he was stealing their souls, condemning them to an eternity of service with no possibility of rest or reincarnation. Some researchers have noted that the Terracotta Army's formation isn't just military, it follows certain spiritual principles, designed to create a supernatural barrier. The kneeling archers at the front, the ones with the most disturbing inscriptions, are positioned exactly where ancient Chinese burial practices would place guardian spirits. Dr. Chen's team found evidence that construction of the army followed lunar cycles and spiritual calendars, suggesting the timing was as important as the physical work. Certain inscriptions can only be found on statues completed during specific spiritual windows, as if the binding rituals required precise cosmic alignment. The ultimate horror is that this may have worked exactly as intended. For over 2,000 years, the emperor's tomb has remained undisturbed. No grave robbers have successfully penetrated the inner chambers. Modern attempts to explore the tomb using ground-penetrating radar have produced strange, inexplicable results. Is it possible that an army of enslaved souls has actually been standing guard for 2 millennia, trapped in clay prisons, unable to find peace or move on to whatever comes after death? The quantum AI has given them a voice at last, and what they're telling us is more disturbing than any horror movie could imagine. So, where does this leave us? We have a world-famous historical site, a symbol of China's ancient greatness, that might actually be a monument to unimaginable cruelty and supernatural enslavement. If the Tanji AI's translations are accurate, the implications are staggering. This changes everything, not just about the Terracotta Army, but about Qin Shi Huang's entire legacy. He transforms from a ruthless but brilliant unifier into something far more monstrous, a ruler who enslaved not just bodies, but souls themselves. It's a story that feels more like horror fiction than historical fact. The revelation has sent shockwaves through the international archaeological community. Dr. Sarah Mitchell from Oxford University called it the most significant reinterpretation of ancient Chinese history in over a century. Meanwhile, Dr. James Harrison from Harvard described the findings as either revolutionary or the greatest hoax in archaeological history. The controversy isn't just academic. The Chinese government, which has invested billions in promoting the Terracotta Army as a symbol of national pride and ancient achievement, now faces an impossible dilemma. How do you market a tourist attraction that might actually be a massive crime scene? But here's where things get really complicated. The full data from Project Tanji remains classified at the highest levels of the Chinese government. The explosive, translated phrases we've seen are just fragments, leaked by anonymous sources who claim the complete findings are even more disturbing. Are we missing crucial details? Could there be alternative interpretations? Or more cynically, is the complete story so horrifying that it's being deliberately suppressed to avoid international incident and cultural embarrassment? Some experts suggest the AI might be over-interpreting emotional language as literal spiritual practice. Others argue that ancient peoples were more superstitious than we assume, making spiritual enslavement entirely plausible given the historical context. What's undeniable is that something unprecedented happened during the creation of the Terracotta Army. The combination of massive forced labor, systematic documentation of suffering, and evidence of spiritual rituals paints a picture of organized atrocity on a scale that's hard to comprehend. Recent developments have only deepened the mystery. In late 2023, seismic monitors near the tomb complex detected unusual activity, regular rhythmic disturbances that don't match any known geological phenomena. Local residents report strange sounds at night, like the marching of thousands of feet underground. Are these just natural settling of ancient structures, or something else entirely? The AI's discoveries have made even skeptical scientists wonder if there's more to this story than anyone imagined. This revelation puts the modern world in an impossible position. How do you present the Terracotta Army to millions of annual tourists? Do you celebrate it as an engineering marvel or mourn it as a memorial to the nameless dead? Some experts demand a complete re-evaluation of the site, insisting that the laborers' stories deserve central placement in the museum. Others caution against condemning a 2,000-year-old emperor based on translations from unproven AI technology. And then there's the biggest mystery of all. The emperor's tomb itself has never been opened. For decades, archaeologists have held back, citing preservation concerns and legends of deadly traps and rivers of liquid mercury. But now the stakes are even higher. If the inscriptions on the outside are warnings, what terrifying secrets lie within the tomb itself? The voices from the clay have spoken, but the Emperor's tomb remains silent. What other horrors are buried with him? The quantum AI has given the Terracotta Army a voice, and what it's telling us is more disturbing than anyone could have imagined. The question now isn't just what else we might discover, but whether we're ready to hear it. What do you think? Are these clay soldiers really eternal prisons for trapped souls, or is there another explanation? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more shocking historical revelations that will keep you up at night.